Hello everyone, this is Crustalmania and welcome back to the 19th week selling results video. In this video, as you've seen from the thumbnail, I had 26 sales this week. Now, some of them were on eBay and some of them were off eBay, and I'll explain in deeper and more detail about the off eBay sales later on in this video. So this week I sold about 15 cards on eBay, which was more than what I thought I was going to sell this week. I mentioned in the previous video that there was at least going to be close to 10. I didn't realize that there were going to be more than 10 this week, so this has become a more successful week for me, and there'll be a story towards the end of this video explaining the cards I sold off of eBay, as that was an interesting transaction. So anyways, let's get into this video. So the first card that sold this week was the Charizard EX promo card. Now this card is one that I got from the Facebook Marketplace listing, and this card I expected to sell just because it was a Charizard. I didn't really expect it to sell at the price that it did. So this card, I started it off at about a $5 listing just because that was a number I was okay with. And actually, after bidding, I think a little mini bidding war, the car sold at around $750, which was pretty interesting because I guess that's close to the market price or sold listings price on eBay for this card, which is very interesting. So anyways, this card sold for about $750, and then after sales tax, transaction fees, and the shipping label fee, I made about an eBay net profit of about $5.44. So a lot better than what I thought I was going to do on the card. I don't remember what market price was exactly. It could be around $6. I could be incorrect, but I'll put it up here on the screen. But this card is actually a nice card. I've appreciated it more as I've had it because I've seen this card in the tin before, just attached to the tin if you're going to buy the promo tin. But I had never actually thought I was going to ever own this card. And when I got this card in the Facebook Marketplace listing, I was surprised by how nice this card looked. So overall, really nice card, and that was the first one to sell this week. So moving on to the next card. The next card that sold this week was the first of two Deoxys VStars that I got from that same Facebook Marketplace listing. So Deoxys VStar, a card I'm very familiar with. I also, currently as of recording this video, have given my friend this card. So I had 3 Deoxys VStars at one point, but as of this video, he has hit the Deoxys VStar in his collection. And this Deoxys VStar, I was surprised, did not sell the very first rotation of listings that I had when I put it up on eBay. But the second rotation of listings, it sold quickly. So this card I had listed up on my eBay page for about $10, and after sales tax, transaction fees, and the shipping label fee, the card came out to about $747, which is the same number as an airplane, if you guys don't know. That is a relatively good number for the Deoxys VStar. I know the actual market price of this is closer to 10. It's either like 9 or 10. So the fact that it sold for around market is pretty good. And this card is really nice. I really do like the art on this card. Wish I could keep a version for my own, but it's okay. The cards are going to a good home. And this is the first Deoxys VStar to have been sold. So that is the second card this week that sold. The next card this week that sold was the Glaceon V card. And this card was surprising because I have had this card on my eBay page for a while. I mean, I was almost considering having to trade the card at a card show just because it wasn't selling. I think I had it for $1 more than what it sold for originally, and it wasn't even getting looks at that point, so I had to lower it down to a more reasonable price that after me looking at price adjustments, because I think before when I listed it, it was going for about $1 more, but then with how the card market fluctuates, it went down, so buyers are buying it at a lower value. So anyways, the Glaceon V card sold for about $2, and then after sales tax, transaction fees, and the shipping label fee, I made about 73 cents eBay net profit. So not too bad. To be quite honest, this card actually was sold, and I was very surprised because I just figured this card was not going to sell anytime soon. So I'm glad that somebody purchased this card, and this card is going to a good home and they will enjoy that card. So the next card that sold this week was the Hoothoot Trainer Gallery card from Astral Radiance. This is one of the cards that I got from the Trainer Gallery Crown Zenith listing off of eBay, and that's the last listing I purchased off of eBay, I believe. And this card is interesting. When it was at a higher price, I think, than what it sold for, it got some attention, but no one bid on it. Once I lowered it down by 50 cents, it actually sold for more than what I was asking for. So kind of interesting how the system works in terms of eBay auctions, which is really interesting. But this is a really nice card. I've actually had a lot of people asking me about this card. I didn't realize this card was that popular. Granted, this card is in really great condition, but there are a couple people that sent me offers when I actually accidentally left the offer button on. And I negotiated with them for a little bit, and a lot of them asked hey, is the Hoothoot available in combined ship? If I buy this card and you throw in that card, and we can come to a deal there. Tried to do it, but none of the deals really worked out. But I was just really surprised that this Hoothoot card was that desirable. I didn't realize that this one was that desirable. So that was something interesting for me to learn about this card. And this card is a very nice art card. So this Hoothoot card sold for about $225. Now I started the listing off, I believe, at $150, and originally I wanted $2 for it. So after all the bidding, it went up to about $225, which was around what I wanted for it. And after eBay transaction fees, the sales tax, and the shipping label fee, I got about an eBay net profit of 95 cents. So not too bad. I would have gotten less for the original amount that I wanted, but it sold, and I just learned something new about this card. I didn't know there were that many people looking for this card, and the fact that it sold at around the price that I originally wanted it for, every time that happens on eBay, it just kind of makes me chuckle a little bit. I'm just like, okay, that's interesting. But anyways, so that is the fourth card to have been sold this week. So the next two cards to have been sold this week are two cards that were combined shipped, and this is a repeat buyer that bought these cards. So thank you to that repeat buyer. You're going to see a few cards from him that he purchased. So the first one is going to be the Charizard Lost Origins card. This is a near mint copy from that same Trainer Gallery Crown Zenith pickup I got from eBay, and this one's the near mint copy. I sold an LP one before, but this one's the near mint one. This one I lowered the price a little bit just because I think the market of it went down a little bit and there wasn't a lot of traction, and there are also a lot of sellers selling this card. So that is something I don't think I took into account before, is how many sellers were selling a certain item, which I think I should have accounted for. But when there's a lot of sellers selling the same item, it's hard for your item to be seen. So that is something I just didn't consider, and I'll have to consider going forward. But this card did sell, and it did combine ship with another card. So I'm glad to have sold a near mint copy of this card, because I remember the first time I had the lightly played version of this card, I wasn't sure at that time if lightly played cards sold, just because it was one of the first lightly played cards that I'd listed up on my eBay page. So that was definitely a learning experience. And This card, I believe, sold for about $5, and with the combined shipments and stuff, because combined shipping, the shipping is a little bit cheaper just because you're combining it with another card. After sales tax, transaction fees, and the shipping label fee, just because it's combined shipping, the order earnings for this card were about $5 eBay net profit. So because of combined shipping and the other card that actually was in this combined shipment actually got bid up higher, this card averaged out to be sold at the price that I got the profit for the price that the card sold at, which is very rare. So I just want to make a note of that there. So that is the Charizard Lost Origins card. The card that was also sold in the same combined shipment is this Galarian Articuno card. Now, this card I had as the second one. I sold one, I believe, a week or two ago, and that was the first copy of this card. And the first version, I sold it for a little bit lower because I wasn't sure what the market was on this card. And when I saw the Moltres and the Zapdos selling for about 6, I moved this one up to 6 just to see if this one would sell for 6 as well, because the first Galarian Articuno V I had at 6 did not get any traction at that time. And I'm wondering if it was due to maybe it wasn't being the holidays at that time, so not too sure. But this card actually had a little mini bidding war happen for this card. So it started at 6, and I believe it ended at like $8, which I was really surprised by. I didn't know that there were a couple people interested in this card, but this card eventually ended up getting bid up to about $8, and it went to the repeat buyer that did the combined shipment for the Charizard. So that made it easier for me. I didn't make as much on this card, but for the ease of combined shipment, it just made my life a little bit easier, and the seller gets the 2 cards that they were wanting. So this card was, again, sold for about $8, and then after transaction fees, shipping label fees, and sales tax and the eBay shipping label, it came out to be about $5 for this card. So it was $5 for the 2 cards basically. So pretty good deal for the Articuno, but I made the profit back for the Charizard, so it evens out in a weird way in that sense. But combined shipping, that is a nice combined shipment because the next one is also a combined shipment. So I sold 4 of the other trainer gallery cards that I got from that trainer gallery listing and Crown Zenith listing. So these were the lower end trainer gallery cards, but they were really nice, and they also went to another repeat buyer that bought from me. So the first card that was sold was the Rockruff trainer gallery card. All of these cards were near mint condition. Again, these cards I had for about $2 originally listing up on eBay, and I figured that was a pretty fair price. But as I noticed the sold listings were around $150, I moved them down to $150, and I said, you know what? I'll give the buyers not a deal, but I'll move down to kind of the prices that's more affordable to them. 1, these cards weren't moving for me. They were gaining some traction, but they weren't moving. But 2, it's just that's better for their price point, and just all the way around, it would be good. What's interesting is once I moved this card and the 3 other trainer gallery, actually the 4 other trainer galleries, including the Hoothoot down, all of them got a bid by this repeat buyer initially. So unfortunately, they didn't win the Hoothoot card, but they won the other 4 trainer gallery cards, which I thought was very interesting. So this card here, Rockruff, sold for about $1.50, and because of combined shipments, it's more advantageous when you do combined shipments with free shipping because you save a little bit on the shipping label, or the shipping in general with all the cards for both the buyer and the seller in a sense as well. After sales tax, transaction fees, the shipping label fee, I made about 82 cents on this card, which is more than I would have made if I sold this card individually for about $1.50. So that is the same with the rest of the cards, but the next cards I do want to show off, and it's the Dedenne card. So this is the other trainer gallery card that was sold. And this one was really nice, actually. I think the art out of all of the 4 that sold to this repeat buyer, I believe that this Dedenne was probably the most artistically interesting to me besides the Hoothoot. And I don't know, the colors pop on this card, and it's just a really interesting card. I'm not too familiar with the Dedenne, but just the art of the card was really nice. Pristine condition, and overall, it's going to a good home. So again, this card sold for $1.50 after sales tax, transaction fees, and the shipping label fee. This card came down to about 82 cents. So really nice for this card. Glad to have sold this card. This actually, out of the 4 cards besides the Hoothoot, gained the most traction. Like, people looked at this card the most besides the Hoothoot card. So it must have been like the art and the conditioning of these cards that were drawing people. It's just they didn't want to commit at the $2 price, but at the $1.50 price, the repeat buyer didn't mind bidding on it. So that is great. And the next card from that trainer gallery set is the I'm gonna butcher this name because I still don't know how to say this Pokemon's name. Druddigon? I have no clue. The dragon. I just call it the dragon. So this dragon sold with the listing with the combined trainer gallery cards. This art is nice as well. I just am not familiar with this Pokemon, hence I can barely even say its name. But the art is nice. It's in near mint condition. I think this Pokemon might be from the black and white era of Pokemon, but I could be incorrect. I do kind of remember seeing this Pokemon, but I don't remember which generation it's from. But the way it kind of reminds me for the art, it reminds me of some of the older Disney shows with like a or actually it kind of reminds me of like Charizard sleeping or Dragonite sleeping and Ash being right up against it, or a trainer being right up against it, just kind of hanging out there. So really interesting art, and the name still challenges me to this day. But anyways, this card sold for about $1.50, and after sales tax, transaction fees, and shipping label fees, it came out to about 82 cents again. So if anyone has a better way or knows how to enunciate this Pokemon's name, let me know in the comments. Would really like to know because I keep butchering this one. But anyways, the last card that sold from this listing is the Jynx full art trainer gallery card. I didn't even realize Jynx had a full art card. That's kind of an interesting one to me. I know Jynx is a 151 Pokemon. I just didn't know Jynx was that popular of a Pokemon to have a full art card, because it seems like a lot of the full art cards are for the more popular Pokemon. But hey, it's a nice card. It's an interesting card, and the art is actually pretty in sync with how Jynx is as a Pokemon displayed in the shows. So pretty accurate there, and some nice art and colors on the card. And that is one thing I have appreciated more of the full art cards. Illustration rares, special illustration rares, art rares, and cards like that. The arts on these cards are actually very nice, so definitely learning and appreciating those. But this Jynx was the last card of the combined shipment, so it sold for $1.50, and then after sales tax, transaction fees, shipping label fees, it came out to about 82 cents. So these cards, if they had sold individually, these 4 trainer gallery cards, I would not have made as much. So I'm glad that these cards were all combined shipped and went to this repeat buyer, because this repeat buyer, I believe, bought 6 cards from me in a span of a week or 2, I believe. Yeah, in the span of 2 weeks. So thank you to that repeat buyer. Really appreciate it. It's really nice to actually have had repeat buyers. Never thought I'd actually have any, so really cool there. The next card that sold this week was the Duskull from Crown Zenith's Galarian Gallery. Now, this card I am also surprised sold, because this card had also been up on my eBay page as well for a while. Not as long as the Glaceon V, but quite a few listings, and I thought this card was going to sell a lot quicker. I didn't realize that this card would not sell that fast, and it could be because at the time the price of the card, in terms of like TCG pricing, when I first compared this card to eBay selling, was pretty high, and or higher than what it was for what I sold it for. And it was just really interesting because it just shows you kind of like the stock market. These cards move pretty similar to the stock market. They go up and down. And you have to adjust the card prices at times to what the market's going for. So this card eventually sold for about $2, and then after sales tax, transaction fees, shipping label fees, came out to about eBay net profit of 73 cents. Now, what I do want to mention about this card is it's interesting how this card, the Turtwig card, I think the Voltorb, Hisuian Voltorb card, and the Riolu are all based in the forest, which is actually nice scenery. I didn't know that Duskull had a full art card, and this card looks really nice. I mean, if I were collecting Galarian Gallery, this would be a card I'd look for. It's a really nice card. It shows Duskull in a really nice light. It's not really scary looking. It's more, I guess, innocent looking in a sense, because it's just not really spooky as normally I would imagine this Pokemon would be portrayed as a ghost Pokemon. So very interesting, and to have it in the scenery of the forest I thought was very interesting as well. So that is the Duskull card that sold this week. And the next card that sold this week was to the repeat buyer that bought the Charizard Lost Origins card and the Galarian Articuno V, and this is the Blaziken V card that I had, the Trainer Gallery, I believe, as well. And this one is really nice. This is a really nice card. The art on it's really cool. The Blaziken pose is pretty interesting. May in the background, the cool motion effects of the art, and it's at nighttime. Just the card is really nice. Trust me, I really wanted to keep this card, but I couldn't keep this card just because I wanted to get back the money that I paid for the original listing. So this card is really nice. It went to that same repeat buyer, and it went for a pretty good price. And you know, that repeat buyer bought, I believe, 4 cards from me. So I really do appreciate that. So this card sold for about $8, and after eBay sales tax, transaction fees, and shipping label fees, it came down to about $5.84. So this is the second repeat buyer I had, and I thank that repeat buyer as well. Really appreciate the fact that he bought 4 cards from me. That means a lot because I never thought I'd ever have repeat buyers. I thought they'd mostly just be one-off buyers, like buy a card and not come back. So glad to have had him bid on multiple cards on my eBay page when I had more inventory. So glad that some of these cards interested that repeat buyer as well. So anyways, the next card that sold was this Greninja EX card. Now this card's interesting. So I picked this card up from the card show, and I failed to look at the conditioning of this card. I had an offer on this card initially, and when the person sent me the offer, I rejected the offer initially, but then I was like, I want to haggle a little bit with them because that's kind of not right, because I accidentally left the offer button on. So I was like, you know, as a sign of, for me, it didn't sit right. So I sent them a message afterwards saying, here's my offer for the card. I sent them the pictures of the card and noticed that there was whitening and a dent on the top right hand corner. And I didn't realize that this card was LP, because at first I thought it was near mint, and that was my mistake. So I had to lower the value of this card, which that's on me. I have to look at conditioning better, and that's something that I'm going to have to pay more attention to, especially when I'm distracted, especially at like a card show. You're kind of talking to the vendor, I'm distracted, but I have to pay attention to the conditioning more. So anyways, this card sold for about $5 on my eBay page, and after sales tax, transaction fees, shipping label fees, it made about $3.29. So for what this card was, this card sold. And honestly though, the art grew on me for this card. I'm surprised. Like At first, I was just like, oh, Greninja's a cool Pokemon, but the art did grow on me. Like, it's a cool pose. It's kind of like the Iron Man or Black Widow pose from the Marvel movies. Kind of interesting, or superhero pose. Anyways, so the next card that sold this week was the card I picked up from the second LGS store pickup, and this is the Okidogi full art card. To be quite honest, I have no clue what generation this Pokemon comes from. I just remember seeing an X-Ray Hawk video saying that this card is one of the ones to look out for from Shrouded Fable, and believe this is also more of a playable card in the actual Pokemon TCG, so figured someone would be looking for this card probably for their decks, not really maybe to collect, but more for playability. And this card is an interesting card. Again, I'm not really familiar with this Okidogi Pokemon, but I know it's one of the more popular ones out of Shrouded Fable. And this card, I had it priced a little bit higher, but priced a little bit lower at the end of the day and sold it. And really happy this card sold because I have a funny feeling this is going towards someone's actual playable Pokemon TCG deck. So this card sold for about $5 on eBay, and then after sales tax, transaction fees, shipping label fees, came out to about $3.31. So interesting there. And this card has been sold, and glad it went to a good home, or is going probably to someone's deck to be played at a tournament or just against some friends. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, let's get to the next card that sold this week. So the last card that sold this week on eBay is the second Pikachu VMax card that I picked up from the LGS store the first time I went there. So this is the second copy, and this card I guess now I've had for a while. I guess it's been a while since I went to the first time to the LGS store, and it took me a little while to put this card up on eBay, because the first one took a little longer than I thought to sell. So once the first one sold, I put this one up, and this card sold after about a couple or 2 or 3 cycles on eBay, and this card sold for a little bit more than I thought it was going to sell for, but hey, that's how it goes. So this card sold for about $225 on eBay, and then after sales tax, transaction fees, and shipping label fees, about 94 cents eBay net profit. So not too bad. I think the other one sold for about $2, so this one sold for about 25 cents more. And this is the last card that I sold on eBay, which the Greninja, Okidogi, and Pikachu VMax I did not expect to sell. The other trainer galleries I expected to sell, but the Glaceon and Duskull also surprised me as well this week. I didn't expect those cards to sell as well. The other cards I did expect, like some of the bigger cards from the repeat buyers, they had bids on there for a little while, so I knew those were gonna sell. But these were all the cards I sold on eBay this week. Now, the interesting story here is I sold about 11 cards off of eBay, and I'll bring this story up in the next LGS video pickup that I did, and that video will be coming out shortly after this one comes out. But when I went to the LGS store, I picked up more cards, and oddly enough, when I was there, I started talking to a guy who actually frequents the LGS store quite often, and he knows the manager as well, and I got to talking to him, and he goes there to buy cards. He's a newer collector. Long story short, we got to talking. He was interested in the dogs, so the Entei, Raikou, Suicune, and he was like interested in looking for those cards, but they didn't have any at the card store. And I told him, hey, I'm selling a Galarian Gallery Entei right now. He's like, I'm not familiar with that one. What does that one look like? He looked it up. He's like, oh, that card's really nice. He's like, I'll talk to you about it later. So we exchanged contact information, and later on I thanked him, nice meeting him and stuff. And he said, yeah, nice meeting you too. So what's the status on the Entei? And at the time, the Entei was just about to end its listing, so I wasn't sure if it was going to sell. So I sent him the link to the eBay listing where the Entei was, and he saw that. But then he looked through the rest of my eBay page. He said, oh, you have a lot of cards here that I am interested in and look nice. I'm like, oh, okay, which cards do you want? sent me a whole list of cards that he wanted, and I was like, okay. I think half of the list were cards that weren't able to move for me on eBay, so I was even considering taking them to the next card show I'm going to and to trade those cards for other cards that would sell. And other cards I just was surprised that he was interested in. So we ended up coming to a deal for 11 cards because the Entei actually did not sell. So in this clip, you'll probably see me sift through the cards, but I'll go through it now. So basically, all the cards that sold, here's the stack of 11 cards, and these all sold for about $60. So it's the Dub Wool Baby Shiny. I picked this one up from the LGS store, and this one wasn't able to move for me, which I was very surprised by. And the conditioning is really nice on this card, so I'm really surprised that it didn't sell for me, but that's how it goes. The Barraskewda Baby Shiny, I also thought this one was going to sell as well, so surprising there. Lugia VStar that I picked up from the listing on Craigslist. Surprised that one didn't sell as well, but I guess now it did since it's going to this person that purchased it. The Manaphy card from the Trainer Gallery Crown Zenith set. This card didn't sell on eBay either, which was surprising. So that was an interesting thing. The Flareon Trainer Gallery card. This one sold, but the buyer didn't send me their payment on eBay. So I decided, well, local seller, why not? Pachirisu Full Art. I'm surprised this one didn't sell on eBay, but it's going to this buyer that I met in person. Lucario, the Baby Shiny I got from Facebook Marketplace. I had just put this up on eBay, so I had to take it down early, but that's okay. The Lapras EX card. This one I got from the LGS store. It's a really nice card. Surprised this one didn't sell as well on eBay, but it's okay. It's going to a good home now. The Fire Dog, the Entei V. So really nice card there. There is a little print bump on the top, which I didn't notice, which is why this one didn't sell originally, but the buyer that's purchasing from me doesn't really care about those little knickknacks. And this is the second Deoxys VStar, so this one is going to a good home, and I didn't even have to put this one up on eBay. It just was sold before it even got up there. So, and then the last card is the Mimikyu Baby Shiny. So this card is really nice. Like the Lucario, I just put this one up and it didn't even finish its full listing before I took it down. So these are the 11 cards that sold, and the buyer is not too concerned about the conditionings of the cards. He doesn't mind buying cards that he likes in LP condition or near mint condition. He just likes, if he likes the look of the card, he just wants to buy that card. So it was really nice because it worked for both of us. He was looking for these cards. He's trying to complete the Baby Shinies, and he just likes the illustration rares, special illustration rares, and art rares. And he liked what I had, and there were some cards I wasn't able to move. So overall, for the price tag of $60, I thought it was pretty good because I was able to make up some profits for some of the cards from this buyer that I met. So really interesting trip to the LGS store. I'll have more of a story on that in that video. It's a little interesting with that one, just for my personal preference. Nothing with the LGS store, it's just something for me. But anyways, those are all the cards that sold this week. So I negotiated a deal with the dude that purchased all these cards locally, not even on Facebook Marketplace, and we came to a good deal. So glad that all these cards sold this week. This is going to be a long video, and I'm just really surprised that 26 cards sold this week. I was surprised that I got that many sales. So if you stuck around to the end of this video, thank you. I will put timestamps in this video so you can maneuver around, because I know this is going to be a really long video. So anyways, hope you guys like this video. I'll see you guys in the next selling results week video. Have a good one, everyone. Peace.